The Egyptians created monuments for eternity. Whether the colossal pyramids of Giza, the mystical Sphinx, or the breathtaking Luxor Temple, all these stone giants of the past have always captivated us. Those buildings, which the inhabitants of the Pharaonic Empire did not complete, however, take a backseat in comparison. Even the Baka pyramid was to be abandoned long before its completion and left to its own devices. However, this construction is still overshadowed by some huge question marks. What moved the ancient Egyptians to abandon their project from one moment to the next? And much more. What is the strange behavior of the modern authorities all about? Why is the Baka pyramid deliberately sealed off from the interested public? Are there possibly deep secrets lurking on the site that none of us are supposed to see? Let's take a closer look at this gripping topic today and get to the bottom of this historical mystery. You've already given us a thumbs up and a subscription? Perfect. Then we can start right away. Do you know of an unfinished building from the past that still presents experts with insurmountable obstacles? Feel free to get busy and tell us about it in the comments below. The most exciting and informative comments will receive a heart from us and will be pinned to the top. Unknown mystery. Hand on heart, how many of you have even heard of the Baka pyramid before our video? Well, the fact that the unfinished structure ekes out an existence in the shadows of its more famous counterparts is mainly due to the fact that neither the civilian public nor the experts are allowed to enter it. In fact, the Baka pyramid has been located in a military exclusion zone for quite some time. Further excavations are therefore categorically excluded for the time being as a result of this situation. In view of the fact that we have so far been able to find out so little about the millennia-old site, this seems at least somewhat surprising. Located in the Saujet El Arjan excavation site, construction may have begun in the late 3rd or early 4th dynasty, and although the structure is commonly referred to as the Baka pyramid, this name attribution is far from uncontroversial. On the contrary, the only clues we have about the true tomb lord are some incomplete cartouche names, whose handwritten tradition is also extremely questionable. The fact that the construction phase, which was never completed, took place during the period mentioned above is explained by the researchers as a result of the characteristic style in which the complex was to be built. Sparse Findings. The Baka pyramid was first rediscovered and investigated in the 1840s, followed by further expeditions in 1905 and 1912. However, since the outbreak of World War I brought all further research to a standstill, it was to take until 1954 before the site again became the focus of public interest. However, this did not have a classical archaeological background, but was due to the search for a suitable backdrop for the monumental film Land of the Pharaohs. In the 1960s, the aforementioned military zone was to be established here, which has put a stop to all further excavations to this day. But what could be found out about the site so far? Well, in the case of the planned tomb superstructure, the answer to this question is almost nothing. Except for a square excavation and the sparse traces of a pedestal, archaeologists have been unable to uncover anything. As a result, it appears that the actual pyramid structure was demolished immediately after the foundation was laid. However, the tomb substructure, which presents itself as a huge T-shaped shaft, is somewhat more revealing. While the steep access passage is more than 105 meters long, the actual tomb shaft is 25 meters long, 12 meters wide, and 20 meters deep. However, this large depression was not cut into relatively soft sandstone, but into massive limestone, a circumstance which inevitably raises some questions. How did Egyptians manage to put this ambitious undertaking into practice? It is true that the inhabitants of the Pharaonic Empire used bronze chisels with which limestone could basically be worked. However, such tools probably wore out incomparably quickly and quickly became unusable. But how is it then that, as a result of the high rate of wear, we have not already uncovered thousands of discarded bronze chisels and pickaxes throughout ancient Egypt, or in this site in particular. Puzzling details. Some people critical of the unfinished Baka pyramid believe that we should abandon the pyramid theory from the outset. This is justified with the unusual form, which corresponds to a parallelogram. However, since there is no other known pyramid that has such a shape, the interpretation as a planned pyramid is sometimes strongly doubted. Also, the unusual size of the tomb substructure gives reason for skepticism. In most other pyramids, the shafts were so small that one could not even walk upright through them. No less puzzling is the unusual sarcophagus that adorns the presumed burial chamber. In detail, it is oval and embedded directly into the massive stone blocks of the floor. With a length of 3.15 meters, a width of 2.20 meters, and a depth of 1.50 meters, the question arises, how should it have fit through the access passage? Sometimes, it is suspected that we are not dealing with a sarcophagus at all. Because of its uniqueness, its use as a ceremonial or astronomical object is also discussed. The fact that the floor cladding blocks are made of rose granite should not go unmentioned. However, the nearest site from which this massive material could be brought was more than 800 kilometers away from the Baka pyramid. Leaving aside the question of transport, how did the Egyptians manage to get the blocks, which weighed several tons, through the long, steeply sloping shaft? Were they possibly lowered while the rest of the construction work was still in full swing? These and other questions keep the site at the center of various theories. Inconceivable development. The fact that the last official photographs of the site date back to 1954 is not exactly conducive to further deciphering the mysterious site. Since 1964, no archaeologist, let alone tourist, has ever set foot on the unfinished pyramid. And it is at this point that things begin to get particularly strange, not to say scandalous. Over time, Egyptian authorities have begun using the venerable site as a dumping ground. Yes, you heard right. According to local rumors, the millennia-old complex, still shrouded in so much mystery, has been turned into a garbage dump. And indeed, on modern satellite images, we can see that the site looks completely different today than the images of the past showed us. Against this background, many archaeologists suspect that the condition of the site is, quote, unknown and possibly disastrous. Open questions. Regardless of whether we are dealing with an unfinished pyramid, a temple, or some type of structure, one question remains. Why did the Egyptians use stone blocks here, of all things, that were so massive and impractical? Thus, the components in which the presumed coffin was embedded are 4.5 meters by 5 meters. The assumption that the sarcophagus, which in its form rather reminds of a bathtub, possibly served a completely different purpose, is meanwhile fueled by another circumstance. When the archaeologists found the object, it was closed by a lid measuring 2.95 by 1.90 meters, and there was no corpse inside. But why would the Egyptians have sealed the coffin if the pharaoh in question had not yet died? And would tomb robbers really have bothered to heave the massive lid back onto the sarcophagus after they had completed their criminal work? Let's recall at this point that virtually nothing is known about the background of the Baka pyramid, except for some workers' graffiti, which contained the mentioned incomplete cartouche names. We lack any clue. Yes, the experts are not even able to place the presumed pharaoh's name in a known context. It does not appear either in contemporary sources or in the surviving king lists. A cover-up? And what is the peculiar behavior of the Egyptian authorities all about? Is it really only coincidentally chosen for use as a military area, or nevertheless a completely purposeful cover-up? And why on earth is this equally unique and valuable testimony to our times simply being misused as a garbage dump? Moreover, the site is hardly mentioned at all in public reports about ancient Egypt. Rather, it seems that one would have to specifically search for the unfinished structure and do extensive research in order to even get a coherent picture of the information available to date. So, once again, the question from the beginning of our video. Before our post, how many of you knew that something like an unfinished Baka pyramid even existed? So feel free to take another look at the fascinating footage of the site and let your thoughts run wild. Is the sheer size of the shaft really consistent with the common bronze tool theory? Why did the Egyptians use such massive rose granite blocks for the construction of the complex, which, moreover, had to be brought from a distance of more than 800 kilometers? And all this only to make a floor covering with it and an oval sarcophagus that does not appear a second time in the history of ancient Egypt? Who knows? Maybe the decades-old pictures do show us something much more unbelievable than the conservative researchers would ever have suspected. Why the Egyptian authorities categorically forbid any further excavation? Only they themselves know. But what we do know is that we are now curious about your opinion. What do you think about the mysterious history of the unfinished Baka pyramid? What kind of structure do you think we are dealing with here? And do the authorities really want to hide something from the public? We're looking forward to your comments. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a subscription to learn more about the greatest mysteries of the past. And with that, thanks for watching, take care, and see you next time.